This is Holly Uso with a math lesson.
Hi, Superclass. Today we're going to talk about factoring. So if we factor something like x squared minus 5x minus 6, we say that the leading coefficient of this is 1. This expression is a quadratic expression, and it is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is 1. Can you see that there's no number that you can see in front of x squared? That means that the number in front of x squared, or the coefficient, is 1. So when that coefficient of the x squared is 1, we want to find two numbers that multiply to give 6, that's the c value, and add or subtract to give the number in the middle, that is what we call the b value, to give 5. We can finagle the signs at the end, but we will end up with negative 5 there. So what are the factors of 6? 6 can be 1 times 6, or 2 times 3, and that's all it is. Do any of these add or subtract to give 5? Well, if we add 2 plus 3, we get 5, but if we subtract 3 minus 2, we get 1. If we add 1 plus 6, we get 7, but if we subtract 6 minus 1, we get 5. So how can we tell whether we're supposed to add or subtract? If we're supposed to add, we take the bottom two. If we're supposed to subtract, we take the top two. So which is it? We look at this sign. This sign tells us whether we are to add or subtract. If this sign is negative, then we subtract. If this sign were positive, then we would add. So the two numbers that multiply to give 6 and subtract to give 5 are these two, 6 and 1. Now let's see how we get the sign to be correct. So when we factor, we are going to have parentheses, I'm just going to erase that there and show it this way instead. The x squared is going to split into x times x. Now the 6 could either split into 2 times 3 or 1 times 6. We are going to pick 1 times 6 so that the two numbers subtract to give 5. So if we put 1 here and 6 here, now how do we get the middle sign to be negative 5x? This gives me 1x, our inner terms, and this gives me 6x, our outer terms. In order to get minus 5x here, we want to get a minus here, we need to make the larger of these two negative. In order to make negative 6x negative, we are going to make this negative. It's not easier for students to put the negative in front of either x, so I suggest that you never do that. Thus, since this is negative, and this times this has to be negative, this will be a positive sign. Let's check and see that we got this correct. X times x is x squared, right? We are using the FOIL method. So we did first times first, then outer times outer is minus 6x. Inner times inner is plus x, or plus 1x. If you'd like, you may write the 1. If you don't like, you don't need to write the 1. It's optional. And then plus 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. Notice that this gives us negative 5x, doesn't it? And thus this gives us x squared minus 5x minus 6. Exactly what we started with. Every letter, every power, every sign, every number, every variable, every sign, every number exactly matches. And that's how we can see that this factorization is correct. All right, so last time we saw what happened if we factored where this sign was negative. Let's see what happens if we factor a similar problem where this sign is positive. Suppose we'd like to factor x squared minus 5x plus 6. Again, we are factoring a formula or an expression like ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is 1. Thus, we want two numbers that multiply to give 6, the c value, and add or subtract to give this value, 5. How do we know whether we want to add or subtract? We look at this sign. If this sign is positive, then we want to add. So here, we want two numbers that add up to give 5. What are the factors of 6? They are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. Do either of these two add up to give 5? Well, you probably can see that 2 plus 3 is 5, whereas 1 plus 6 is 7. So 1 plus 6 won't help us in this problem. So let's factor. The x squared factors into x times x. Then the 6 factors into 2 times 3. Notice that when we do this, the 2x and the 3x, right, this is the inner terms and these are the outer terms, this will add up to give 5x. But we don't want plain 5x, we want negative 5x. So what does the sign need to be for 2x and 3x? Well, both of these need to be negative, right? So in order to make negative 3x happen here, we'll put in a negative here. In order to make the 2x negative, we'll put in a negative here. And this will give us the factorization. Let's check this using the FOIL method. And we'll use FOIL. So we want to see that x minus 2 times x minus 3 equals what we started with, the original expression. And if so, then this will be the correct factorization. X times x is x squared. That's our F for FOIL. Just move this over. Then x times minus 3 is minus 3x. That's our outer two terms. If this were a rectangle, those are the ones on the outside. Minus 2 times x is minus 2x. Those are the inner terms. If this were a rectangle, those would be the ones on the inside. And negative 2 times negative 3 is plus 6. Notice that these two in the middle are like terms and can be combined. None of the other terms are like, so we will not be able to combine those. And that gives us x squared minus 5x plus 6. Notice that every variable to every power and every sign and every number and every variable and every sign and every number are exactly the same as what we started with. And thus we know that our factorization x minus 2 times x minus 3 is correct.